This amazing kitchen gadget slices fruit and vegetables into long, thin sheets, which you can use for cooking. I'm going to test it out with a courgette or zucchini, an apple, and a carrot, and I'm going to find out which one gives me the longest sheet, and how long can it be. The gadget came in this box, which was a bit battered when it arrived, and thankfully it also came with some instructions, which is good, because I had no idea how to use it when it arrived. And what's nice is the instructions also have some great recipe suggestions for you to try once you've cut your produce into sheets. So the gadget itself looks quite intriguing. There's this removable blade cover which just unclips, and this large green knob which turns the metal skewer. This grey piece in the middle is the cutting deck, and it's spring-loaded and lifts up. And there's this little switch here on the side which pushes across a little lug to hold the cutting deck open. The switch is actually spring-loaded, and I think it's supposed to slide into place when you lift up the cutting deck, but I found mine needed a little push. You do need to be careful because the blade is very sharp in there. But the little cover clips on nicely and works well for storage. This large green handle just pulls out, revealing these kind of paddle spikes, and if we pull this side here, it removes the metal skewer running through the middle. And after giving it all a quick wash, let's try it with the first one. So I put the gadget down alongside of the courgette, and I think we're going to have to cut it to the length of the blade. So I sliced it pretty much in half, so it's about the same length. Next we need to open it up and slide back the lock, then pull out the metal skewer and take off the green knob, and apparently the best way to install your produce is to stand the gadget upright like this. Sit it on by here, try and line it up centrally, and push the skewer down through the middle. Ha, there we go. And next, the green knob should slide back into place, and those paddle spikes should push through into the courgette to grip it. Ha, there we go, all locked on. Slide the switch back, and lower down the spring-loaded cutting deck. Now, the first thing I've realised is I've cut the courgette the wrong length. I thought we'd have to cut it just as long as the blade, but it actually needs to be another centimetre or so, because it overhangs the blade, so the spikes can grip it. But we'll carry on and see how it goes. And when I started turning the handle, oh wow, straight away it started to peel it. And that's looking great. Oh blimey, it's just snapped off. That is quite fragile. Oh, and again, let's try it down onto the surface. I think I'm going to have to kind of pull it out as it's cutting. Oh dear, that just keeps snapping. But then I realised I should be moving the machine back as it's slicing. Now that's going to be far more successful. I kept going and going, and there we go. A nice long sheet of courgette. That's pretty impressive. And there's still a bit more to go. It does look very thin and fragile now. And, oh, check that out. If I pull this bit off the skewer, we've got this really interesting looking plug. Of course, we can just chop this up and use it in our cooking. But now, let's see how long the sheet is. And to my surprise, it came in at about 46 centimetres or 18 inches. That's actually really impressive, and it was my first go. And I'm sure it could have been even longer if I'd had a better technique. So let's clean up a bit and move it over here and try the next one. The apple. So I'm fitting it into the machine in exactly the same way. You do have to be a bit careful with that exposed blade. You definitely wouldn't want to scrape your fingers on it. And once you've got the skewer in, push the handle through again, and even though it doesn't look quite central, it shouldn't matter because the cutting deck is spring-loaded, so it moves back and forward with the produce. So I started cutting and, oh dear, a couple of very short pieces. Then I realised I hadn't actually removed the switch that holds the cutting deck up. The moment I withdrew that, it started working perfectly. Check that out. There's all the skin from the apple as it peels the outside. Then we've just got a skin line at the top and bottom as it goes round and round, slicing into the apple. This is actually cutting it really nicely. Check this out. You can see the apple getting smaller and smaller the more rotations we do. And wow, this is going to be so long. There we go, it's just snapped. So I guess we'll end it there. But check this out, here's the end, and it keeps going back and back and back and back and back, all the way to the start here. That's whopping! And to measure it properly, I'm first going to have to uncurl this bit, where it didn't lie down properly to start with. This is pretty fragile, but probably a bit stronger than the courgette was. I think the apple peel on the edges helps hold it together, but it did break in a couple of places while I was handling it near the end, but I'm lining these back up to get an accurate measurement. And this time when I measured up, wow, I couldn't believe it. 1 metre and 27 centimetres. That's 50 inches. That's absolutely crazy. And again, I'm pretty sure I could have even got it longer with a bit more practice. Or of course, I could have used a larger apple. There's still some on here, so let's try slicing some more to see how much more we get. God, it is getting very thin now. And of course the apple skin is so thin here, which makes it even weaker. There we go, and just a little bit more coming out. And whoops. Well, there we are. It's cut all the way through and broken up the core now. So that's the end, but what a huge amount of apple sheet we've made from just one medium-sized apple. Now, before we try out the carrot, I want to show you this. It's a handheld rotary cheese grater. It comes with a 5-year guarantee, so let's see if it's any good. I opened up the box and removed it. And here it is. Quite a nice looking thing, nice and compact. And I see. The handle lifts open like this. So I guess you put the cheese in here. There's another handle here on the side which you can turn to rotate the grating drum, and you squeeze the top handle down to put some pressure on the cheese. The drum unscrews like this to remove it, so it's easy to dismantle for cleaning. It is quite a fine grater, but it does feel very sharp. The box says it's suitable for hard cheese, chocolate and nuts, so I'll be testing it with all 3 of those. First though, I gave it a quick clean, then dried it and reassembled. Now, one of the really cool things about this is you can assemble it either way around. So it's suitable for both right-handed and left-handed people, depending on which way you configure it. And I'm going to start by testing it out with some of this hard cheese. Cut a piece off, roughly the width of the grater, place it inside the hopper, and close over the lid. You can see it's kind of like a little claw that grips it, and it applies a bit of down pressure to keep it in contact with the grater. So how well does it work? Well, the moment I turned it, it started spitting out the cheese. Wow, check that out. That's really quick and easy to use. Although you do have to kind of keep tipping it out, otherwise you're in danger of it clogging up. But within just a matter of seconds, I've got this big pile of cheese. And it's fantastic for grating straight over some pasta or salad or something. Like we've seen, it dismantles easily, and it's pretty easy to wash, although cleaning the inside of the barrel is a little bit tricky. Next I want to try it out with chocolate. So I snapped off a line of blocks, and sat them in the hopper, and I'm going to try grating some onto this plate. Instantly, we've got this lovely fine grated chocolate that looks and smells lovely. You could use it in cooking or sprinkling over a dessert or something. But now, let's see how it works with nuts. I filled up the hopper with a handful of walnuts and started turning. And it's making pretty light work of it. I do find you have to hold it quite firmly with your one hand to be able to rotate the other lever, but the resulting product which you get out really is good. There's some lovely fine nuts here. And if we open up the top handle, you can see it's done a great job of grating it all. Only a few tiny bits left behind. And if you like, you could just clean these out into the bowl. But yeah, look at that. Lovely and consistent, really fluffy. That's another really handy product, and I particularly like it for doing hard cheese. But next I want to show you this. It's another rotary grater, and it's kind of like the big brother version of what we've just seen. This one says it can slice things. It's got a coarse shredder and a fine shredder too. It comes in a variety of colours, but I ordered a red one. So let's open the box and take a look. There's the instructions, and there's various bits and bobs in here. So I took them all out and started unwrapping them. This piece must be the base, and there's this dial on the side, which operates a sucker pad on the base. I guess that'll hold it down firmly on the work surface. In here there's a handle. It must connect on somehow. And here's a release clip. Unwrap this piece, and we've got this kind of hopper section. I think this is one of the cutters, and this must be a pushing block. Unwrap this piece, and one of the cutting barrels. It all looks and feels nicely made, and this one's got straight blades, so it must be the one for slicing. I guess inside this box there should be the other attachments. Yeah, there we go. A coarse and a fine grater. That's cool. I'm looking forward to trying all of this out. So this hopper section looks like it just kind of slides and clips into the base here. There we go. And there's this little lever here to release it. So to use it then, I think you just take the handle, select which type of cutter you want to use. The cutter kind of slides up inside the barrel, and the handle just kind of clips on the end. Yeah, that's cool. Wow, I think this thing's going to be really quick. Even spinning the handle slowly is going to do a lot of cuts very quickly. And after giving it a quick wash, we're ready to try it. I'm putting it on the kitchen work surface. And first, let's try out the suction cup. Twist it to lock, and wow, that's really solid. It doesn't move at all, even when I push it hard. And to test this gadget, first I'm going to try slicing carrots. and potatoes, and then I'm going to try it with onions, even though the instruction manual says it's not really suitable. Then we're going to try the coarse grater with carrots and cheese, and finally I'm going to try grinding nuts with the fine grater. Then I'll try it with some chocolate, and I'll end with a wild card, something a bit different. So stick around and see how that goes. So first I'm installing this slicer tool, slide it up inside and just clip the handle on. Then I'm placing a bowl underneath the chute. Next I'm taking this large carrot, place it inside the hopper, and let's give it a go. Oh wow, check that out! Straight away it just munches through it, spitting out these thin but perfectly uniform slices of carrot. Wow, I'm impressed. And as it gets shorter, to keep your fingers safe, you need to use the pushing block to keep your fingers away from the blades. And because I didn't chop the end of the carrot off, I'm stopping here so I can remove it out of the grater. I don't want that piece in with the mix. But that really was impressive. We can carefully remove the last couple of pieces and remove the cutter to give it a wash. And these thin pieces of carrot have come out perfectly. But next I'm going to see how long it takes to slice these 3 potatoes. Don't forget to use the pushing block to keep your hands away from the blades. And that's the first potato done in just 12 seconds. Straight on with the second one. It's so fast. Then on to the next. And there we go. All 3 potatoes sliced in just 34 seconds. They're so nice and thin, you could probably bake them or fry them to make your own potato chips or crisps, or maybe use them in some kind of cooking dish. That is impressive. Now, the instruction manual says it's not really suitable for onions, but I'm going to give it a go to see what happens. So after I peeled the onion, I placed it inside the hopper, and I'm using the pushing block to apply some pressure. Oh, that kind of looks like it's worked all right. It has mashed up alongside of the block a little, but I can kind of scrape it back down in and try cutting it all through again. And there we go. Well, it has worked. But one thing I did find was there's just no consistency in the cuts, because the structure of the onion is all layers. Some bits have cut quite small, and other pieces are really quite large, so depending on what you're going to cook, it might not really be suitable. But now it's time to try the coarse grater. I installed it up in the machine and clipped on the handle, and this time I'm going to chop the end off the carrot before putting it in the grater. And straight away you can see it's making these beautiful thick pieces of coarse grated carrot, and it's just so quick. As with most kitchen gadgets, you might not want to bother using it if you're just grating one carrot or something small, because of the time it takes to set up and clean. But if you wanted to grate or slice a load of stuff, maybe make a coleslaw or something, it would definitely work well. It's such a cool gadget and it's really fun to use. But let's see how it gets on with this block of cheese. It only just fits in the hopper. And as I was turning it and pushing it down, I didn't realise, but it started getting a bit clogged up. And it got to the point where I couldn't really push it down in anymore. Then I realised it was completely jammed up. The cheese hadn't fallen down the chute into the bowl. And because I kept pushing more and more through, it all became bunged up. So after cleaning it all out, I continued with the rest of it, but this time I made sure to extract what was coming through. To be fair, this cheese is really quite soft and a bit sticky, and I should have paid more attention, I think, but it's definitely something to watch out for. It has actually done a really nice job of grating it though, even though some of this cheese has kind of smeared onto the inside of the barrel. If you take a look, you can see just how soft and sticky it is. But we have got this lovely bowl of grated cheese. After cleaning it again, I installed the fine grater and filled up the hopper with these mixed nuts. I'm using the plunger to push down, and this one is really satisfying. Check that out, just instant ground nuts. I love the way they just pour down into the bowl. That's worked so well and with so little effort. And if you wanted to make a load of ground nuts, I'd definitely recommend using this. But now let's try it with chocolate. I'm going to leave it half in the wrapper, so I can just push it down like this, and it won't melt in my fingers. Start turning, and again, look at that, just perfect. It smells delicious. That's just mouth-watering. You can use this for all sorts of recipes. Maybe some sprinkles, or make your own hot chocolate. Now, before I show you the wildcard entry, let's go back and see how well the sheet slicer works with the carrot. So for this one again, we're going to need to cut it down to size, and I'm going to keep the thicker end of the carrot to hopefully give us a nice long sheet. And rather than chopping this end off, I'm going to use it for where the spikes insert. So I placed it down onto the gadget, but this time I had immense difficulty pushing the skewer through. The carrot was just so hard. I really had to push and squeeze to get the skewer through. And once it was done, I pushed in the spikes. But again, it was really difficult to push them through into the carrot nicely. But there we go, ready to try. So I lined it up next to the courgette and apple and started turning. And, again, it looks like it's going to be really fragile. It's actually quite difficult to turn already. And, oh no, check this out, it's come off the spikes. I think there was just too much resistance trying to cut it through the blade for those little spikes to hold. So what I'm going to do is remove it. Cool, that's so tough. And, oh, flippin' heck, it's flown off. But there we go, look at that. So I'm thinking if I chop this end flat and square, hopefully that'll be a nice fresh start for the spikes to push into and we can start again. So I installed it back through the hole again, and this time it was a lot easier to get the skewer through. I made sure the carrot was right tight up against the face, and I pushed those spikes through into the carrot as hard as I could. Right, there we go, let's try again. I remembered to release the cutting deck and start again. And well, nope, it's really not happy. There's a couple of bits, but same again. There's just too much resistance, it's popped off the spikes. And if I push it back on and try and hold it with my thumb, a tiny bit more carrot, but it's really not happy. It just feels like it's going to break the gadget, so I'm going to stop. So with the carrot, it was a complete fail. But I do really like this gadget. It worked really well with the first one, the courgette, and of course the apple. You could use it with potatoes or beetroots, or anything else that isn't too hard like a carrot. Now do let me know if you'd like to see me try making some recipes with this gadget. Leave me a comment. But now, back to the grater. And for the wild card, I'm going to try grating ice. Now the idea is, I might be able to use this to make ice shavings. So I dropped 3 cubes into the hopper, placed a glass underneath, and gave it a go. And it's taking a little bit of time to get started, but yeah, look at that. It's starting to fill up. I'll spoon that out into the glass and try making a bit more. Oh, that's better. It's actually starting to slide down the hopper into the glass. And my plan is I'm going to use it to make a slushie. So just pour over some fruit juice or cordial. I tipped in a bit more ice on top and stirred it in a bit. And I think we're going to need a bit more as well. So I ground up some more and spooned it over. That's looking good. Well, that's our homemade slushie. Pretty cool, huh? But I've got to say, I cannot recommend doing this. You're definitely in danger of breaking the machine. Ice is very hard, and I've almost certainly dulled down the cutting edges on the grater. And I could have even broken the whole thing, maybe cracked the hopper. But if you want to make your own homemade ice shavings, I'd recommend using a machine like this instead. And you can see this with a whole load of other kitchen gadgets if you click on the link here. Have fun, stay safe, and as always, thanks for watching.